Okay, we're gonna do the Elon Musk thing, but can you entertain a brief divulgence before then? I have a serious political discourse that I want to do. If you've all been on Twitter, you've probably seen this image. You've all seen the image. Okay. I think this has spawned some pretty interesting discourse. We're going to try to avoid horny posting here. What is this? Okay. So, you see, it's a drawing of a woman, presumably, and with a marker, a line has been drawn up up from the vulva, up vertically, with demarcations along it that indicate the level of enthusiasm uh, based on how deep the penis goes, presumably. That's what this image is. And then up at the top, right, like below the sternum, it says penetrated, and there are hearts here because that's where she's really happy. You see? This image has spawned a remarkable amount of discourse, which is really interesting to me, you know? Because like there were people quote tweeting this with hundreds of thousands of likes going like this is dumb, this is misogynistic, this is unrealistic. And okay, here's the thing. You're not gonna believe it. All right? But I have at some points in my life looked at and even drawn pornography. It's been known to happen, you know? And I've said it before and I still mean it, but the best drawn pornography you're going to find out there is from the furry community. Whether or not you're a furry, you've got three like categories, right? You have hentai, the Japanese stuff, which is like 90% rape and pedophilia. So, as an aggregate, no. You have Western porn that's drawn by people who have given up on their dreams of being a comic artist for Marvel or DC or something. And the way they draw sex is just weird. You all know what well, some of you know what I'm talking about. Everything is stiff, there's no fluidity, which you need. And then you have the furry porn artists. And, you know, even if you're not a furry, they just draw high quality stuff. And the thing is, if you look at furry pornography, you will note what some might refer to as a loose adherence to anatomical guidelines, okay? Realistic proportions are not really a hallmark of the genre. You know, you've got people doing remarkable stuff, very stretchy, and they like it that way. I like it that way. It's a drawing, you know. I don't look at drawn art for you know, necessarily for like hyper realism. You know, it can be cool. So, sometimes you want to see the femboy fox's belly get round because of all the cum. You know, this is a widely appreciated fixture of drawn pornography. So, with that being said, with it being so common, why do people get mad over this image? And again, I'm telling you, hundreds of thousands of likes on tweets that are calling this out. But if you go look at like porn Twitter, you'll find 1,000 drawings a minute of women getting penetrated up to here. Why don't they get mad at that? I'm actually asking. Like, see, like if you go looking for erotic images with unrealistic vaginal depth, you know, you'll find plenty. So why this? And you know, I was thinking about it, and this is just me being I'm just being discursive here, okay? I'm just sharing what I felt, all right? Maybe it's because this is more quote unquote realistic. The drawing, like the body you see back here, is while artistically stylized, of somewhat realistic proportion. So to have the highly unrealistic internal logic sort of superimposed on top of the comparatively realistic you know, body. Maybe that sort of, yeah, it's like you're implying reality. It's easier to imagine, the hernia that would result from this when it's projected onto a more realistic body. That might be it, but there's plenty of barely realistic bodies that are then, destroyed by giant dicks or whatever. I think a lot of it is like the dick shaming thing, because down here you have and not enough and pathetic as sort of the first three markers, which I get that, but that's really, really common in porn as well. The hyper fetishization of giant penises. If anything, I feel like there's actually like kind of a contrast here, because is it really that big of a deal to hear pathetic from the woman whose line goes up to here, right? If I was having sex with a woman with the internal anatomy implied by this drawing, and she was like, "What, that's all you've got?" My response would be, "Yeah, it is. What the fuck is wrong with you?" You, yeah, actually, yeah, that is all I have. Sorry, you know. So is it that big of a deal to be like dick shamed by somebody who's set their standards this high? I guess I don't know. I can see some people get insecure over it on the timeline as well. It's like, well, somebody has like an edit of this where the first three here are like normal large or something, but I feel like they, if anything, they underestimate like average penis sizes in that drawing. So I feel like they've kind of swung over in the opposite direction. Um, people, well, I say people here because some women have penises, but let's be real, trans women are not the demographic who are upset that their penis isn't big enough, right? It's like, it's generally the guys. Oh yeah, it's this one. They've censored out. Why have they censored out what? They censored out the bottom of the rib cage. Those aren't the breasts. That, did they think this was like a flat tit? That's the rib. Okay. Anyway, dead, dead, prolapse, painful, large, normal. First of all, this is yum yucking. First of all. Second of all, I've gone way farther than where the line is here on large, okay? You could don't lack in faith that much, okay? You can. It's not painful to hear. Okay, No, guys, you have to. Shut up. I feel like we might be underselling it a little bit here. Yeah, I don't know. Does this not strike a little bit? Is this insecurity or is it? No. This was done by a woman, not a guy. I'm almost certain. I don't know. There's something about what is yum yucking? King shaming. There's Do you think a drawing like this could set up unrealistic expectations for real life sex? I mean, my default answer to that is that if you're getting your expectations for real life sex from hentai images, you're like gone. Like you're lost, right? Because this is hardly the most egregious drawn pornography to get. There are far more irresponsible drawings you could learn from, You ever notice how in drawings, throat is very easy and natural? Oh, absolutely, Shu. It's people actually breathe from their throats, believe it or not. It's that's where the air goes. Yeah, I don't really know. It'd be dependent on the size of the torso. Well, but my point is, like, is harm being done here with stuff like this? Look, people are gonna fetishize really big penises and drawn pornography no matter what. It's everywhere, and I don't want that to change. But people just got weirdly offended by this drawing. And this has happened multiple times. I've seen this go viral like 3 times. And I just don't understand what elicits. As a normal-sized male, it's weird, the whole monster cock shit. Okay, but is it that weird, though? Like, it seems perfectly understandable to me in the same way that I can understand a lot of things that I'm not even necessarily into. Like for example, you know how I make jokes about like bottoms wanting to get the shit beaten out of them or whatever? They're jokes, obviously. But like the real underlying kink, the real thing there, which is masochism, can I understand why a person would fetishize masochism? Yeah, I can totally. Yeah, the idea of like a person getting off on a stronger person, like smacking them around. I'm not into it, but I can understand how another person would be. It's just a part of empathy, right? Like being able to understand like where the wires are crossed in other people's heads. I don't really get foot fetishes. I don't really know where that comes from. Well, a lot of stuff makes a decent amount of sense. Big dicks. I mean, how could one not understand the fetishistic appeal of that? Like they're big dicks. I just don't understand why people get so weird about this. I don't know. You're missing out, Vaush. Feet are great. Okay. What I think it probably comes down to for most people upset by it is they may see it as body shaming in the sense for those people without giant cocks. Okay, I I get that. But okay, a lot of women like being thrown around. Ask for permission first. But it's not uncommon, right? Like women are generally smaller than guys and generally weaker. A lot of women kind of, like being tossed around a little bit. It's a common thing. Not everyone, of course. Ask first. But imagine if there was a bit of drawn pornography where a woman's getting tossed around by like a much larger guy, consensually, they're having fun. And she's like, "Oh, harder, you're so weak, haha." And it's like a playful thing. Like, she's trying to bait him into throwing him harder. Would people interpret that as being body shamey to guys who aren't strong enough to do that? Like, would somebody think like, "Oh, look at that drawing of a very strong guy. I am a regular guy, but the woman is still baiting him to be stronger. This is like an implicit attack on my perceived masculinity." I can totally understand the line of logic there, but I feel like if that's the case, we would be constantly getting like shamed by everything everywhere, wouldn't we? I mean, I guess maybe we are, but I don't know how like legitimate that degree of sensitivity can be thought of. Because past a point, you're just hurting yourself, right? Does that make any sense? Would you feel the same if the pic was about tit size? Yeah, I think so, right? Like if there was well, what would it be then? Would it be some kind of like you drink a magical potion that makes your tits bigger? And it's like, oh no, even bigger or something. Or like a guy is like pointing out like a row of breasts from a collection of women and he's like, well, these ones are the best and pointing at the big ones. I don't know. I mean, by definition, isn't the fetishization of an element of a person's body always going to be exclusionary? Like by its nature, like is there a way to fetishize just any part of a person's body? Because our bodies are it's not like an element of personality. Like your body is your body. You can change your body, but that's a temporal thing. Like in the moment, you have one hand. You have two hands, but you have one iteration of each hand. I mean, you can't swap these out the way you can swap out, say, behavioral archetypes, or like your dick or your tits or whatever. Um, they're non-fungible. Thank you. So it seems like most types of fetishization then would necessarily like kind of bring about those negative feelings. But that's kind of a shitty way to think about it. I don't know. I mean, abs are fetishized a lot, but we don't really have a problem with insecure abless people. Well, maybe. People fetishize women with abs quite a lot in the left because women with abs are hot. Um, I don't know how much that's not safe for work, Cryomancer Cat. That has pubes. There's actually a ton of worship kinks built around the existence of body parts rather than them being super big or small. It's a spectrum, really. That's true, but like we must acknowledge that people who have like cock worship kink are probably also going to have a cock size kink, right? Not necessarily, but there's definitely an association there. They're close together. No, not I didn't say I said not necessarily, Kikanox. It's worshiping masculinity. Maybe that's probably also a correlative thing, but I don't think it has to be a masculinity thing. There are plenty of people who like big dicks who would like them perfectly well in a woman. That's pretty common in drawn pornography, actually. Probably less so in real life, but it's definitely the variable thing. Vaush, isn't a community of people laughing at bad woman anatomy? Do you mean the bad women's anatomy subreddit? Which I go back and forth on, by the way. I don't know. There's something. Oh, sorry. It'd be drawing women. That'd be the subreddit. That's the visual equivalent. Men drawing women. Men drawing women. That's it. That's it. And I go back and forth in this subreddit, which I've seen a couple of times. Sometimes there's stuff here that I think is quite bad, and sometimes there's stuff here that I think is quite defensible, actually. Like the anatomical stylings. You know what? As long as we're here, we're here. Oh, Shu, it's that thing you posted. Hello, Shu. Wonderful drawing, that. That's good. This is very good. This sub is so self-referential. Well. Right. It's not. Okay, I'll put it this way. Okay? Look. Here's a blacksmith lady. As you can see, she's dressed in clothing that is inappropriate for a blacksmith. The funny thing here is that I feel like you could draw a basically naked anime girl wearing a blacksmith's apron and it would be fine. That would be hotter, if anything, because you're not selling me on the blacksmith thing. Right now you're selling me on the idiot cosplayer angle. What was I saying? Oh, right. It's like how much is the like over the top shit like this? How much of it is a mistake and how much of it is like an acceptable oh god. It's like no, by mistake I mean like an error or a flaw. Wasn't the blacksmith in Dark Souls half naked though? You shouldn't do that either. Though I think in this case, well, actually, hold up a second. That is an excellent point. Why do we look at this image and think, oh, this is a ridiculous anime big booba drawing. She should be wearing a shirt. That's certainly what I thought. But Blacksmith Andre in Dark Souls is shirtless. As shirtless as she. Well, actually, she's wearing a little tit strap, so technically he's more shirtless. Though you can see on his body the fruits of his shirtlessness. He's got burns all over him. I mean, obviously this is fetishized, but why was my first thought, it's ridiculous how unsafe this is, when if this had just been a drawing of a male blacksmith, shirtless, I wouldn't have thought that at all. Well, hold on now. Is it progressive to draw gigantic booba anime girls shirtless at the blacksmith's anvil? Am I the reactionary one here? Well, shit. I'm going to have to internally reconcile these positions. This is why I like talking about stuff like this. We give, like, I'll just say this. We give a lot of thought in our brains to stuff like this. A lot of headspace is dedicated to the social, cultural, and sexual factors associated with this. But it doesn't get talked about like politics does. And not in the same way. But it's worthy of the analysis. You can learn something there, I think. If you're being genuine, isn't the difference here the muscle? Maybe, but you could have a skinny guy blacksmith, and I don't know if I would have thought, oh, it's weird for him to be shirtless. Kakamari, or Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress. It's a good anime. It's a pretty anime. I don't know if good is necessarily the right word. Oh dear. Well, there are real anatomical mistakes here. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Wait, I want to learn from this. Hold on. We have to talk. We have to think. I did see this a while back. I actually liked this image so much that I went and I read the entire manga. Can we get back to politics? We are literally talking about politics right now. I saw this image. It was correctly described as being equally sexualizing of the male and female character, which is not common, but you can see it, can't you? The male character here is drawn to be as titillating as the female character, if you're into guys. Not common to see that, especially not in more anime stuff, which I thought was pretty impressive. Male is too muscular? Okay, well, whatever your preferences are, but You know how most like anime guys would look like here, right? Like he just looked like a generic dude. He wouldn't have his lips softly opened or his eyes half opened. He would just be sort of staring directly, gawking at the lady, and he would just have like a shirt, just like a rectangle. You know what I mean? He has a defined ass and thighs. Okay, whatever. He wouldn't even have a face. So often the case, yes. Just give me a second here. Oh! Well, look what I found. Oh, hold on now. What do the comments say? Okay, this is what I mean. What the is this shit? Honestly, did the artist ever have or ever had sex? No, he draws porn for a living. What about this image would indicate to somebody that the artist genuinely believes the cervix is right here? Wouldn't it be more reasonable to assume that this is fetish art? I mean, you could either have it be such that her cervix really is here, and we're going by standard, like, hentai logic, or her cervix could be, here, it varies, the vagina deepens during arousal, and that this is just being drawn by a very enthusiastic, bottom. I mean, either could be the case. Either, I think, are valid. Yeah, the most unrealistic thing of the image, a part of the image is that she'd be able to draw this text that well. Ouch, that hurts just by looking at it. If you get to the top line, do you hit the bell? Yes. Women don't have internal organs now. You'd be dead. TBH, I assume this was fetish art? Yes, obviously. A tattoo like this would give all straight men anxiety complexes. What the f***? If I hooked up with a woman who had this tattooed, I would think that was hilarious. This would be like a more degenerate version of the few people who have gotten that like succubus womb thing tattooed right here on their lower abdomen. If I brought someone back to the bed and they had this, I'd be like, gosh, I'd be like, wow, so we're enthusiastic today. You know that I find that quite funny personally. I wouldn't. I don't think I'd be put off by that at all. It's literally just kink shaming. Well, I think okay, wait, here's my synthesis, okay? The problem is that we have two different things, right? We have fetishized drawings of women that are done because people are horny about them. And then there's the innate fetishization of women that is a component to their sexualization and broader culture. And the first is fine, and the second one isn't, if that makes sense. Or to put it another way, getting horny about bitches should be the choice that you make to be horny about them. But it shouldn't be like the default state of woman. Okay, you know how like everyone can just draw like a guy, like a normal, every artist can just draw a guy? And then if you're like, oh, but can you draw a sexy guy? Then they'll draw a sexy guy. You know what I mean? They'll have a guy, and then they'll be like, oh, okay, let me draw the sexy guy, right? But the problem is that for a lot of people, when they draw, when they hear draw the girl, they start by drawing the sexy girl. But not sexy as in an attractive woman. Sexy as in with all of the warping of anatomy and all of the proportional, buggery and all that bullshit that would normally be the domain of kink or pornography, but they do it by default. Does that make any sense? It's about the starting point. Like, the starting point for a drawing of a man and a woman, in my opinion, like, if you were just a draw a man, draw a woman, should be like it should be a normal level of horny. Or at the very least, the same level of horny. You can make them beautiful, but you know what I mean when I say horny, right? I mean, like, they can be beautiful. You can draw beautiful guys normal, that's fine. But it's like, you wouldn't default draw a guy with like a curvy spine and like an ass sticking out and a giant dick bulge. But a lot of guys' default chick will have like giant boob socks and like a skirt that goes like 2 inches below the mons pubis, you know? You understand what I mean? Oh, work with me here, guys. We need to move on to the next segment. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's about like what is your conceptualization of like the default, like not trying to be horny guy. Right. So maybe the problem is these two things get confused, right? Like if you see, let me think of an example, right? If you think of like, okay, I'm just gonna literally, okay, I'm gonna type sexy anime woman into Google. You know, we're gonna get nothing but the highest quality results here. Let's go with something I can show on stream. Okay, here we go. I want to make it very clear. The thing that I'm about to show is valid, but I don't think it should be the default thing that you imagine when you imagine woman, unless you're also imagining the default guy as having like a 18-inch cock bouncing in his boy shorts every time he runs. You know? Do you understand what I'm talking about? This should be like horny, comma, woman. Like, or woman dot horny. Not just like woman. You know what I mean? Okay. If I type in sexy anime man, will Google make my point for me? Okay. Okay, here's a result for sexy anime man. And it's like a normal attractive. This is what I mean. Do you see? This is what I'm talking about when I say here's turning up the horny dial on guy. But nobody, except for like horny gay men, draws this as their default guy. Like, if you just go up to an artist and you're like, draw a guy, and they draw this, then they're like seconds from coming. Like, they've been edging under their pants the entire day, and they're right about to come, and that's when they drew this, you know? Now, people can draw this when they're asked to draw, like, sexy guy, but I don't think they draw this by default with guy, you know? Okay, I think I've made... Whatever. Okay, look, all I'm saying is we need to draw more guys with giant heaving man tits. All right, moving on.
Whoa, a cutaway? I know. I'll make it quick, I'll make it worth your time. Listen, Republicans have long had an advantage when it comes to online canvassing because they're pretty effective at weaponizing new mediums like YouTube and Twitter to pull people over and actually integrate them into their political campaigning. Democrats have fallen behind in that respect, and that's a serious weakness in their organizing. I don't have the political know-how or discipline to be a political organizer, but I know people who do, and that's why I've partnered with Progressive Victory 2022, which is an organization that's trying to get folks out canvassing, phone banking, text banking, get them to match up with any local campaigning opportunities that they might be able to contribute to. Now, I know these folks. They're real nice. They're real professional. My fans also know these folks because according to this map that my editors are going to put up, there are over 7,000 people who've already signed up for their Discord. Listen, I'm begging you, okay? The primaries are coming up. If you go to vaush.gg/map, you can see not only all the folks who have signed up, hello pigeon, but you can also see how to sign up yourself. And it's simple as, you know, you go, there's a little Discord server, you just, if you want to give them your email so they can send you opportunities, a lot has already happened. Folks have gone canvassing. Jamal Bowman did a talk. They did phone banking for him. It's been real neat. And honest to God, we're coming up close to the end of the primaries here, so there's never been a better time. I know touching grass is scary, but I swear we talk about so much doom and gloom politics here. Feels a lot better to actually do something, you know? Something off the computer chair, if at all possible. Seriously, join. It's important. If you're American, if you're not, then get the heck out of here. Scram, you goofball.